So we were just talking about Pokemon Go, and it's been doing quite well. I heard an initial report that it seemed like Apple and Google were the two companies that seemed to financially benefit from that app the most, but it's doing a lot for Nintendo's stock. This is being reported by Bloomberg. Nintendo traded $4.5 billion in shares last Friday on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, which has been the largest daily turnover of any company this century. And of course, Nintendo shares hit highs not seen since October 2015. It went up 24.52% in a single day. And basically, Nintendo is now worth more as a company than Sony is. All of Sony. Not just PlayStation division, all of Sony. Nintendo is worth more as a company. Yeah. So that kind of puts things into perspective a little bit. Sony has been struggling with its film department, its laptop departments, its TV departments. They just don't. Honestly, their stuff is overpriced. That's the problem. Sony Vaios, I don't even think they own the line anymore. I think they may have sold it maybe a year or two ago. But I don't think they make Vaios anymore, and it's because they were overpriced. Why buy a Vaio when you can get an HP with for a couple $100 less? What? Because of the styling of the laptop? No one buys a laptop for the styling. If you do, you're buying a computer for the wrong reasons.
Or you just have a lot of money.
Yeah, to burn. But anyway, Sony has, and also their TVs, same deal. You can get a Samsung TV just as good, if not better, for much less. The Zeo makes amazing TVs for an amazing price. It's just LG, even though no one buys LG TVs, those are also very good. So when Sony had like their Bravia line, they were basically charging. Whenever I went in to the store and I was looking to get my first HD set, I always remembered the if I was looking at something that was $1,000. The same size, similar featured Sony brand TV would be like an additional $350. It's like, no. Why would I give you more money for the same quality television? But Nintendo, with the release of this app, maybe the Nintendo NES Classic Edition might have a little bit to do with it too, but it's mostly Pokemon Go that is raising their stock. And this honestly falls nicely into the whole, Nintendo wanting to get into other forms of media and getting their properties out there in other media other than video games. This is basically putting them in a really good position to do that.
Yeah, like seeing this and hearing about it, it's surprising, but also not really surprising at the same time. I think Pokemon is probably one of their most successful franchises just because of how much of just everything that they have. They have video games, they have TV shows, they have a trading card game, they have a video game based on the trading card game. They have action figures, little toys that you can find at like Target or Walmart. They have plushies. They have Pokemon centers in some places. Actual Pokemon centers. These are buildings that sell just all kinds of Pokemon stuff. And the fact that you can just have a store based off of like a little, I think it started off as a comic, like a little comic back in like I want to say sometime around like 1990 maybe.
Are you talking about a comic or a manga?
Yeah, because Game Freak started off as it was like a magazine. It was a really small, not really well-known magazine, and Pokemon or Pocket Monsters, as it was called back then, was like a little thing that they started doing, and then they elaborated a little bit more on it, and then they did a bunch of more stuff to it, and then eventually it turned into the game for Gen 1. And I mean, ever since 1996, Pokemon has just been like a huge thing. Like they had concerts for the songs back in like 2000. It was like early 2000s. I remember there was like a huge pop concert thing for the Pokemon soundtrack going around. Um, yeah, that's another thing. Movies. Speaking of which, Pokemon also has. I think they were talking to Legendary Pictures about doing a live action Pokemon movie. I got really excited about hearing something like that, and then I saw that it was most likely going to be like Detective Pikachu, which is kind of like, maybe it'll be okay. I don't know, but this doesn't surprise me at all because I actually think there are more people playing Pokemon Go who aren't Pokemon fans than there are Pokemon fans playing Pokemon Go. Just because it was originally just going to be this really cool thing for like original Pokemon fans to be able to play Pokemon in like the real world and
Hmm.
use augmented reality to be like, oh, there's a Charmander in our backyard. Now I have it. And now like everywhere I look, there's just people playing Pokemon Go that like 6 months ago, if you had asked them to play a Pokemon game for free, just for like 30 minutes just to try it, I'm pretty sure half the people playing Pokemon Go, if not more than half, would just say no. I don't want to do that. I have more important things to do with my time. But because it's such a huge it's just such a huge thing right now, and it's become just like a fad. Like if you're not playing Pokemon Go, you're seen as just you're the odd man out. You're the person who's not in with everyone else,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird to say because I don't know, most nerdy people don't like people being excluded from things just because they normally get excluded, and that's normally like school stuff or just like things in the past. But it's like it's weird to see something so nerdy just be like, if you're not doing this, you're not cool. And I've actually heard like people be serious about saying stuff like that. I've heard people say that in like a joking manner, and then I've seen people say that in like a serious manner. I was like, what are you even talking about? You look like a football player. But yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. There's so many people playing Pokemon Go. There have been a few YouTube channels that have been started since Pokemon Go that are already over like 100,000 subscribers.
That's what we should start doing.
Really? I mean, like, yeah, there's one channel that I follow, and they started like a week or two before the game got released, and I think yesterday or Wednesday they reached like 100,000 subscribers, and then I looked at it again, and they're at like 180 right now.
Wow.
So they're about to hit 200,000, and the game's only been out for like what, 2.5 weeks? Yeah,
Sounds about right.
yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I think the reason why this game's a lot more appealing than, say, Pokemon X and Y, or even classic Red and Blue, um, it strips Pokemon down even further to simpler terms than those games are in. I mean, those games you have you have tutorials you have to go through. This game basically just kind of drops you in the middle of it, asks you a couple quick questions, and then you just go off and do it. And there's really, what's nice is, and I heard this dual aspect of the game this week about it. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. But you can play this game from a competitive aspect. You can, take on the whole team mentality and really try to represent your team and take over gyms and leave your strongest Pokemon there and just catch Pokemon just to evolve yours and try to power them up. Or you can literally not go to a single gym ever and just go around and catch Pokemon without fighting. In the original games, you have to fight the Pokemon you're trying to catch. You have to get their HP level down. You have to try to give them some debuffs, paralyze them, put them to sleep, make it easier to catch. And With this game, there isn't any of that. It's simply, hey, if you time your throw right and, maybe put a spin on it, you're probably going to have a better chance of catching it. You try to do that in the game, you won't catch them.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, here's a Pidgey, here's a Pokeball. It won't work. At full health, anyway.
Yeah. It's like the Safari Zone, but the whole world is the Safari Zone.
But the balls actually work.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is like, while, you're a much bigger Pokemon fan than I am, but the reason why we're probably going to keep talking about this is any good news about Pokemon Go being a success, in turn, is good news for Nintendo, which is also good news for gamers in general, even if you don't play Nintendo systems. Nintendo is one of those game companies that if it were to either go under or just switch over to doing software and get out of the hardware, we would see massive changes in the video game industry that would not be good for gamers. As weird of a direction sometimes Nintendo goes in with their hardware choices, they're kind of like the linchpin of the gaming industry. The industry exists in the way that it does because of Nintendo. Now, Sony and Microsoft, they have come along and, done things like Sony, you can pretty much thank for the success of CD-ROM technology, optical drives being the main focus. It probably would have happened eventually, but before then, all the CD-based systems weren't any good before PlayStation came along. Then you can thank Microsoft for the online communities that we have, even at a console level. But, Nintendo is kind of responsible for home consoles and for the video game industry not dying out in the 80s. So if you're gaming, you really want good things for Nintendo. It's going to be better for everyone who enjoys gaming in the long run.